Good morning. Today
Good.
I'm with Wright Badiian. I know Christine from Santiago, Chile. Her and her husband, Merdad, invited our family to come down to Santiago and stay with them. And so as we moved to Santiago as pioneers, we knew nothing about how to get into the country and get settled in. And they helped us with all those things that were really a headache, and they made it go so much smoother, as well as with the language, because we spoke just a little bit of Spanish. So, and we were down there for the temple project, and we were teaching English together and all of that. So, really nice to be with you, Christine. And Christine, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then tell us why you're a Baha'i and how you became a Baha'i?
Okay. Well, first of all, um, I enrolled in the Baha'i Faith in February of 1974. So we're coming up on an anniversary in a couple of weeks on February 9th. Um, my husband and I, Merdad, pioneered, we did home front pioneering in South Carolina. And then we moved to Chile uh, for the temple project in Chile, which was when we got there, it had been decided on the site, and then it was decided that that wasn't going to be the site.
Yeah,
And
I
so
remember.
things moved around a bit. Um, so we ended up being in Chile for 10 years and came back to the US just for about a year and a half, and then went to Ecuador. I've been in Ecuador for 8 years. Sadly, my husband passed away in last January, so it's almost been a year. And just recently, I've returned to the U.S. To live with my sister and help as a companion caretaker for her, since her health has deteriorated.
Sorry to
Um,
hear that.
but as you can see, I've traveled around a bit, and I look back at many years after I had become a Baha'i. I look back and I saw different things that happened in my life that should have been warnings to me and those around me. My first traveling experience solo was when I was about 3 years old. Apparently, I got ticked off about something, packed a little green suitcase with a doll, and walked about 3 or 4 blocks away and was waiting at the bus stop when they found me.
Is that right?
Yeah. So next incident, which really kind of leads into my journey as becoming a Baha'i. I was about 6 years old this time, and I knew how to get to church. And I asked my mother, "Can I walk to church?" And she said, "Absolutely not." And I wasn't going to take no for an answer, so I waited patiently for a couple of weeks. And then I got up, got my little 3-year-old brother, almost 4-year-old brother, dressed, and we walked to church. Um, they discovered that he and I were gone, and my mom knew exactly what had happened. And I got grounded for a week after that incident. But I got
Grounded
to
for
walk
going
to
to
church.
church. Oh,
Yeah, because I was told not to do that. Then, when I was about 12, we were doing our classes for membership. Uh, I'd grown up in the Methodist church, and in order to join the church, which was expected of us, you had to have been baptized. And if you hadn't been baptized, you had to get baptized that day. Like, and I thought, well, that's just totally embarrassing, and it didn't mean anything to me. I thought, being baptized is not a good housekeeping seal of approval. Billy the Kid was probably baptized, but I didn't have the nerve to say all that, and so baptized, joined the church. Fast forward several more years now to the January of 72. I was in my last semester of nursing school, and my roommate and I had decided to go to church this one Sunday morning. It was bitter, bitter cold. This was in Peoria, Illinois. and we decided to wear pantsuits. Church,
Okay.
1972, right? And so, and this was like the church, one of the churches in Peoria. People driving up in their Lincolns, people getting out with mink coats on and stuff like that. And here's Jackie and I, our pantsuits and regular winter coats, and the pastor was greeting everybody, and he even kind of gave us a cold look, but we went on in, and I swear to God, it was colder in that church than it was outside.
Oh, no.
And that we got. And several days later, we decided to go talk to the minister because it bothered us. And, we said, what was wrong? And he said, do you think that pantsuits were really appropriate? And like, we wanted to come to church. It was freezing outside. But in all honesty, we could have stayed in our dorm room, said some prayers together, maybe read some passages from the Bible, and been more spiritually uplifted than we were that day in church.
No.
This last semester of school was kind of momentous because, here we said this to the minister, and I was doing my psych rotation at that time, and we had to go to an outpatient ambulatory unit for part of our clinicals. And excuse me. And we would pass this one building in our taxi, and it just said Baha'i, nothing more, not Baha'i Center. Well, what's that? Don't know. Well, a couple weeks later, I had gone to church with another, and coming back, we passed the Baha'i Center in Peoria. And people were coming out, kids had papers in their hands. I said, it must be a church, a religion. And so within another week or so, Jackie and I, my roommate, we trundled down to the public library. Remember, then we didn't have Google. So we had to do it.
Right.
And we found several books in the public library. And the one we chose to take home was Baha'u'llah in the New Era. We learned many years later that some of the other books that were on the shelves there had been written by enemies of the faith and covenant breakers. So God guided our hands, and we
Yeah, you
took.
chose well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jackie would read a chapter and give me a synopsis, and on we went. She was a much rapid reader than I was. We got to the part about the fast, and she told me about it, and I said, not going to happen, bottomless pit, no. But there had been a lot of other things that I totally agreed with, about education and equality, the elimination of prejudices. There was so much I already believed in, but I stumbled on the fast. And so after school in August, we moved down to Lexington, Kentucky. 2 Methodists and a Missouri Synod Lutheran. And all of Lexington, and we only had one car between the three of us at that point in time. And it took several months to get schedules all sorted out, and so we could go to church. There was one Lutheran church that our friend Anita could go to, and another little Methodist church, which was very close by. And so we finally got it organized. We dropped Anita off. We went to this other little church, and people were coming in, and adults carrying their living Bibles. And I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. But that's always been a little bit of a red flag for me. But I tried not to be, just, give it time. Maybe they've got a Bible study class coming up. And so, brand new little church. Pews had not been installed yet. And people were apologizing for that. Oh, no big deal. So the pews aren't in yet. They will be. And so we sat down, and I heard what was my first hellfire and brimstone sermon. Everything that anybody had ever told me about a Southern Baptist tent revival. And I'm going, whoa, what was that? And the altar call came. First one up to the altar to be saved was a young girl, maybe 10, 11, standing right in front of Jackie and me, crying her heart out, tears running down her face. First one up to the altar. It didn't set well with either of us. We talked about it later. And so we went back the next Sunday, hoping that that was a guest preacher. We were wrong. And it was like an instant replay of the Sunday before. Altar call. Do you know who was the first one up to the altar? That same little girl. And I said, that's it. I can't deal with that. I'm out of here. We never went back to that church. But it started some wheels turning again.
Oh, good.
And at that time, we had the Iranian crisis where they took the embassy over and had hostages and everything. And so Jackie and I both, and we didn't tell each other, this was interesting, read about Islam because we were hearing about a lot about Islam. And so we read some basics. There was a lot I agreed with and liked, but I stumbled on the way, women having to wear chadors and things like that. Like, I don't know if I can go for that. But still, it had some good points. And the Mormons came by, knocking on doors, and we let them come back a couple times. And finally, I was nominated to call them and say, thank you for your information, but we're really not interested. I was told we were damned and going to hell, which was really unusual, apparently, for Mormons. And so all these things are going on. Well, finally, thank heavens, that summer of 73, Seals and Crofts' Summer Breeze album came out.
Okay.
And for those who are not aware of it, Seals and Crofts are Baha'is, and a lot of their songs based on Baha'i themes and ideas. I love that album, and I actually bought it. Hadn't bought too many LPs. And on the back of their albums, in the teeniest print that I would need a magnifying glass today, for more information about the Baha'i Faith. Well, there are those Baha'is again. And so we checked the phone book, and sure enough, in the white pages, there was a listing for like a name, Faith Baha'i, but Baha'i was first. And so there it was, Baha'i Faith. Called up, and they were so excited to hear our voices, and we went to a fireside. I don't remember now if it was that night or maybe the next evening. Southern Belle, Martha, who was our spiritual mother, and another couple, American and a Baha'i husband. And just them and Jackie and me. And we sat there. They started in just really going through a lot of the stuff that we'd already read. And halfway in, Martha would periodically say, you have any questions? No, just keep going. And we did. We just listened and listened and listened. We didn't really have too many questions, but everything was like, for me, was falling into place.
Oh, good.
Those of us of our age remember the cartoons where you have a little angel and a little devil on opposing sides.
Yeah.
And so there I was. One of them saying, yes, this is it. Dive on in. The other one saying, don't do it. Don't be so much in a hurry.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had this little conversation going on. As we left that night, Saruce said, and he wagged his finger right in my face. He said, you don't know it yet, but you're a Baha'i. And I thought, well, who the heck do you think you are? This was October. And thankfully, with the different holy day observances that were coming up, there was a lot of other activities to join in and read. So we continued to read. The first night of our first fireside, Martha had given Jackie and I each enrollment cards. And she said, just put them, keep them in your purse. And when you're ready, presuming that we're going to sign these things, and every time she'd see us, have you girls signed those enrollment cards
Oh,
yet?
good.
Oh, she was, you think Mary Dodd was pushy.
Yeah,
She,
she wanted to know.
he had competition.
Uh-huh.
Um,
What was Martha's last name? Do you know?
and so we went on. And finally, it was February of 74. And I'd been reading something, and I sat there and thought to myself, I really think I'm a Baha'i. I really do believe in all this. And I thought, but I'm going to pray about it. And so that night, um, I prayed about it. First, I prayed about Christianity. I thought maybe the born again Christians had got something and I just missed the boat. So prayed about it, thought I was being sincere. Nothing happened. It was like knocking on a door, nobody answers. Well, that's interesting. Prayed about the Baha'i Faith. Wow. What? Top of my head, I felt this energy just go through me. The hair on my arms stood straight up. Whoa, what was that? Didn't necessarily feel bad, but it was a bit startling.
I feel it right now, right in the
Yeah,
back of my neck.
being a nurse, a little scientific process ensued. And so I prayed about Christianity again. And this time I got the feeling and the impression of floating in a cold black void with nothing and no one around me, totally alone. And I said, ooh, that doesn't feel good. Prayed about the Baha'i Faith again, and it was just this warm feeling of peace and comfort. I said, well, I think I got my answer. So I went to Jackie and I told her, and we called Martha. Martha, can we come over? Sure. She went out and bought 2 kinds of white cookies that morning. And so when we got there, she's out in the kitchen putting the cookies on a platter, and she said, why did I buy 2 kinds of white cookies? Jackie and I had put our enrollment cards on the table, signature side down. And she came up, when are you girls going to sign those cards? And we said, Martha, we need your signature. She happened to be the secretary. She about dropped her teeth, and she, now I know why I got 2 kinds of white cookies. And so first few years, we lived in Lexington, Kentucky, and Jackie ended up getting married, and it was several years before I got married. I did some home front pioneering in Hawaii, and I came back for a vacation, and that was when I met Merdad back in Bloomington, Indiana, where I had moved from.
Oh, I didn't know
Met him
that.
at Baha'i Youth. I met him at a Baha'i Youth conference there. 3rd of July and the 1st of October, we were married, and we were on our journey at that point. And so that's how I became a Baha'i
Oh, sounds like
many, many years ago.
quite a journey.
Huh?
And I said quite a journey that
Yeah, this has
you've
been.
been on leading up to that point and then
Yeah,
after,
yeah.
and
I'm pretty
all
sure
your
it's not over
pioneering.
yet.
No, all the pioneering and where you've been. And
Yeah.
what was Martha's last name?
Uh, Martha
Martha Jeffers is your spiritual
Jefferson, and she's
spiritual
buried
mother.
in Lexington, Lexington, Kentucky.
Okay. And what did you and Jackie think of your first fast?
I'm sorry, say that again.
What did you think of your first fast?
Um,
Because you said it was
I
keep
gained
holding you
five
back a little
pounds.
bit.
They were quite jovial about it, and we had breakfast potlucks and stuff like that. I gained 5 pounds that first fast with the thought, oh man, I might lose some weight. Ha!
All
And
right.
after that, I controlled myself, but it went well.
So the fast didn't hold you back from being a
No, it
Baha'i.
didn't. And actually, when we enrolled, I enrolled because I had learned what the significance of the fast was and the importance. And that was one of the reasons I enrolled when I did, because it was February the 9th. So it was before the fast started so that I could participate.
Oh, wonderful.
I could have participated anyway, but
Yeah.
that was more meaningful that way.
Yeah. Well, Christine, I'm so happy you shared your story with us, and it was quite a journey you went on, but And I'm super glad that the lightning bolts were going off for Baha'i Faith.
Yeah,
Yeah, thanks again. It's so nice to talk with you.
you.